Okay, so demisexual is described as a person who only feels sexual attraction when there's an emotional bond, aka.
You know, it's interesting because I was going to talk about demisexuality myself here, which is demisexual people only feel sexually attracted to somebody when they have an emotional bond with that person. So here's my take. Demisexual doesn't exist. It's stupid. It's the same thing as sapiosexual, attracted to intelligence. It's dumb. It's not a sexuality. It's just a preference. It's not. Everybody wants to have a sexuality nowadays. Everybody wants your unique sexuality. Honestly, because in child spaces of the LGBTQ community, so Twitter, Tumblr, TikTok, the gay straight alliances in schools, they're gatekeeping LGBTQ, where they like force you, if you want to be an ally, you have to have something, you have to be some kind of sexuality. I know this because my girlfriend was part of the gay straight alliance. She was a president, and she felt pressured to like identify as something just so she could support the LGBTQ community. It's an unfortunate, ridiculous gatekeeping, so people overly identify so that they can identify with the LGBTQ community. Now, it's not all the gatekeeping. Some of it's just ignorant kids that are desperate to like want to belong to some kind of unique identity because they are just not unique, and instead of working on themselves and developing uniqueness or strengthening themselves, they want to identify with something ridiculous. Sometimes it's just people wanting to identify with something. So let me just make it clear, I'm not putting it all on the LGBTQ community. And any part that is on the LGBTQ community isn't. It's the child space of that, because the child space of everything is very gatekeepery. When I was in school, I used to like metal music. I still do, but I remember invalidating some people because they liked different types of metal. Kids are fucking annoying. That's where a lot of it comes from. So when you get kids, when they get a hold of any type of ideology, they gatekeep the fuck out of it because they want us to feel unique and special. And the reality is that demisexuality is just traditional values. That's all it is. It's just people who have traditional mindsets that want to get to know somebody before they have sex with them. And I want to reinforce one final thing. The one final thing that I want to reinforce is the best way that you can identify somebody with the LGBTQ community is if they ever had some form of oppression associated with them, right? Outside of ally. We added ally so people could jump on board and be like, I'm an ally of the LGBTQ community. Everything else, if you haven't been oppressed for it, it's not a sexuality, okay? People have been oppressed for being gay and trans and lesbian, etc., etc., etc. Nobody's been oppressed for being fucking demisexual, okay? This is the era of hookup culture, where everything is about fucking before you get to know somebody, and some people are more traditional and they don't want to do that, and they've created a sexuality to force uniqueness. It's not a sexuality. You just don't want to have sex before you get to know somebody. It is that simple. I know people want to overcomplicate it and turn it into this big old thing, but it's not a big old thing. It's not a sexuality. You're not oppressed. People not wanting to fuck you doesn't make you oppressed. People beating you in the street makes you oppressed. And that's what happened with a lot of gay people and trans people. That's why they're part of the LGBTQ community. They are legitimately oppressed groups of people. So you don't need to be identified with LGBTQ shit if you're fucking demisexual. It's not real. You can get offended because you identified with it because you wanted to feel special, but you identifying as demisexual and forcing yourself into the LGBTQ community invalidates that community in and of itself. So technically, if you really want a demisexual to be a thing, guess what? That means that all traditional Christians and Jews and all that other stuff, they're all demisexual. All conservatives are demisexual. Now that makes you feel like, oh, wait a minute, maybe I'm wrong now, because now all the people that hate us are now LGBTQ. When you think of it like that, it makes you realize that, huh? Because that's all it is. So you have two choices: either oust demisexuals from the LGBTQ community, or Ben Shapiro is LGBTQ. That's your only option. You only got those two options. Ben Shapiro's LGBTQ plus LGBTQIAAP. Lesbian, bisexual, gay, transgender, queer, questioning, intersex, I think ally, asexual, pansexual. Boom. Got him. I know, I'm so smart.
A woman. And then she said, quote, hip or cool to not be hetero in my liberal bubble. The country.
What the fuck is that? Okay. Okay.
She does not have a future with this kind of stuff. It just does not. It's so wonderful to be a member of the intersectional coalition that everybody wants in. And so we're now just going to make up things so that you too can be a member of the intersectional coalition.
And I want to be, I'm watching this video. I just want to be clear. Ben Shapiro is homophobic and transphobic, right? He doesn't think trans people should exist. Well, he doesn't think that they should have exclusive like rights as trans people. He just believes that they should be considered people who are crazy, but they should be able to live. I do believe that's transphobic. I mean, it is. And then he doesn't think gay people should be gay and that you can't be gay in like some kind of religious anything. You can be gay, but you can't act on it. Homophobic, right? Not a particular fan of that, but it's so sad that now we're sitting here watching this video and we're like, oh, Ben Shapiro. Well, it's sad that you're making me agree with Ben Shapiro. You know what I mean?
Which brings me to my favorite story of the day. Michaela Kennedy Cuomo, 23, is Governor Andrew Cuomo's daughter. She came out in an Instagram post last month as queer. Now, we used to believe that queer, now having been hijacked from a term of derogation as a derogatory, is now used by members of the gay community as sort of a championing term.
I mean, yeah, they're reclaiming their word. I don't really know what it means. I thought it was a blanket term. Everything's so fucking complicated. It's annoying, to be honest with you. I wish that we could just get like a very shorthanded description on everything about LGBTQ people so I understand what's going on. Because what'll happen is they'll change everything constantly and then you're like, oh, I think this is it. They're like, no, you're an idiot. And it's like, bro, I'm just trying my best. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just trying my best. You got to give me a piece of paper. Give me the fucking LGBTQ Bible so I can educate my goddamn self on this shit.
Right.
Which is probably like Tumblr. I probably have to go to Tumblr, which I'm not going to go to.
It used to mean gay, bisexual, lesbian, right?
Blanket term,
It used to mean something along those. Now, Michaela Kennedy Cuomo came out as demisexual. According to WebMD, demisexual people only feel sexually attracted to someone when they have an emotional bond.
Right here. It's ridiculous that it's on WebMD, bro. Give me a fucking break.
When I was in elementary school, I feared that I was a lesbian. When I was in middle school, I came out to my family and close friends as bisexual. When I was in high school, I discovered pansexuality and thought that's the flag for me. I've recently learned more about demisexuality and have believed that identity resonates with me the most. And then she said, she has always dreamed of a world in which nobody will have to come out because everybody's sexuality will be assumed fluid. But in a world that force-feeds cisgender heterosexuality coming out of the...
We can just do that. We can honestly just do that. See, here's the problem with that mentality. It's like, oh, like, she wants to make this point where, like, we should really just perceive sexuality as fluid. But you're actively working against the ability to consider sexuality as fluid. When you hyper-specifically label every type of sexuality, you're removing the ability for people to just be some kind of gay or something. Like, you're saying that we should be able to remove the moniker of sexuality. I agree. I don't think it matters. We have all these stupid conversations about dumb shit that doesn't really matter. It's like, well, I'm bisexual. Well, I'm there's another one. There's like so many things. I'm like heteroflexible. Oh, I'm this, I'm that. Just be a little gay or something. Like, who cares what the labels are? But the problem is that when you do these hyper-specific labels, you literally cannot achieve that looseness on like sexuality. So you're not advocating for the removal of like labels and sexuality. You're quite literally advocating for hyper-specific labels. My perspective is, who gives a fuck what you are? That's it.
The closet is a lifelong process of unpacking internalized social constructions and stigmas. And
I mean, most of the social constructions have been created off of like our biology, right? Like men like women, women like men. And then, like, as society grows, things change. You got a little bit of gayness in there. There's a bunch of stuff. Everything's cool. Everybody's hip. And then things change.
She's demisexual. She added that when she first came out as queer, she feared she would be perceived as attention-seeking since it's, quote, hip or cool to not be hetero in my liberal bubble. And therein lies the issue. Okay, so what?
Wait, I like that. I'll give her some props for that, though. Because she acknowledges that it is considered hip or cool to be LGBTQ, and so some people forcefully identify. I'm going to give them some respects on there.
What the hell's a demisexual, you ask yourself? So again, WebMD now lists demisexual as, quote, only feel sexually attracted to someone when they have an emotional bond. Okay, now, demisexual started off as a fan fiction role play forum in 2004
Is that true?
On a made-up identity in a middle schooler's character. Okay, and now it's on WebMD. Okay, so demisexual.
Hey, whoever made that sexuality up, but good for them. They got into WebMD. I wish I could make up something and get into WebMD. Papa sexual, gonna get into WebMD. It means that you're only attracted to papas. That's weird because I feel like that's kind of a thing now. That's like a DDLG kink. And so, like, that actually might become a thing. That's uncomfortable to think about.
Is described as a person who only feels sexual attraction when there's an emotional bond, aka a woman. A woman. What studies demonstrate repeated social.
Well, okay, so she's not changing her gender identity. This is a sexuality. What the fuck are you now talking about? Now you're just going off on a goddamn tangent. She's saying her sexuality is demisexual, which is not real. Duh. We just explained why. But she's not identifying as a different gender.
Science and hard science studies suggest that women tend to have higher sexual satisfaction
Oh, okay, now I get
when
it.
they have an emotional connection to the person with whom they are having sex.
Okay, now I get it. Well, and people in general have that, Ben. You are demisexual, Ben Shapiro.
But now this is considered some sort of minority sexuality, demisexuality. Okay, everybody is so interested in jumping on the intersectional bandwagon because, again, if you're part of the coalition, then you're not part of the evil maw of the United States, the evil blob that is the United States.
I'm quite literally an evil blob of the United States. Look at me. Look at this. I'm jiggling my juice.
The left is banking on this. They've weaponized our institutions in favor of this sort of nonsense. And it has a pretty predictable effect. The demonization of people across the other side of the aisle and the attempt to subjugate the institutions of the country and destroy them as somehow not benefiting you.
This feels a little intense for me. Okay, I just think people are being ridiculous. We don't need to turn it into a fucking conspiracy theory. I don't think we're quite there yet.
The country does not have a future with this kind of stuff. It just does not. And the more young people who feel that it is popular to join the quote-unquote coalition of the oppressed, because you're either the oppressor or the oppressed in the binary Ibram X. Kendi nonsense construct, the more people who buy into that construct and then decide they're going to be a member of the oppressed group because there's only victims and victimizers in American society, the more the United States is going to be in
I'm German and Jewish. I'm both a victim and victimizer.
serious trouble. And we can
Ethnic Jew.
see that each and every day. Who's got two thumbs and wants you to like and subscribe?
Wow, how ableist of you, Ben, to assume everybody has two thumbs, you piece of shit. Fuck you. Hey everyone, if you liked that video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to follow my Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, Discord, and TikTok. All links are in the description. Also, check out my Patreon if you'd like to support me even more than you already do. Thank you so much, everyone. I love you all.